Hello, and welcome to another episode of Book Faces Live, the show where we talk to the faces behind your books. I'm Nathan Van Coops. I'm your host, and today I'm excited to be bringing you an interview with Monica Leonelle. Monica and I met at the Sell More Book Show Summit in Chicago, and we were able to chit-chat a little bit about her business. She was a speaker at the conference. And I'm excited to get her on. She's running a little bit behind. So I went ahead and started, and I thought I'd do a little bit of an intro, and then we're going to bring Monica on, hopefully in just a couple minutes. So I wanted to tell you guys a little bit about Monica. Monica is the author of a variety of nonfiction books as well as fiction. And I just picked up a couple of her books myself, the 8-Minute Writing Habit and Dictate Your Book. One of the things Monica is known for is for writing fast. She has a book called Write Better, Faster, in which she has sort of chronicled some of her journey from going from a person writing a couple thousand words an hour to writing close to or sometimes over 4,000 words an hour. And then sort of finding her sweet spot of where she wanted to be productivity-wise for writing. But her business acumen goes beyond just writing. It also encompasses a lot of just the overall planning and strategy that goes into becoming an author. And one of the things I'm excited to talk about today is the business of writing a book and the business behind a book. So, Monica says that she is here, so I'm going to go ahead and see if we can bring her on. Let's see if it pops up here. Hey, there you are.
Hey, sorry I'm late.
Hey, no worries. I understand that.
That's very necessary.
So you're doing some coffee shop writing today?
Yeah, I was. I typically go. Like 2 to 3 times a week.
Just get a little bit of variety in your...
Are you having...
Yeah, I was kind of having you...
Are you having connectivity?
Yeah, I was having you... You were kind of freezing up there for a little bit, for a couple times, but let me see if we can't fix it.
Let me check. Okay, my internet's fine.
But, I was telling people a little bit about you and about your books and how we had met at the summit in Chicago, and I was able to get to hear your talk, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be here and be on the show today.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So I've been listening, actually kind of catching up a little bit on some of your other podcasts you've done. I was listening to one of your chats with Joanna Penn, and also I was listening to your talk with Rachel Herron, who was a guest we had yesterday. So I've really enjoyed listening to some of your experiences throughout kind of your career and growing your business. I wanted to see if you would be willing to share with us a little bit more about kind of the idea of the business behind the books and kind of how what was a little bit of your journey going from doing this as maybe a hobby and moving that into the mindset of turning it into a business?
Okay, doing this as a hobby. So I started in 2009. I wrote a book basically to help me make a career shift. It was about social media marketing for corporate. And I think the book made like $2 or $3 grand. So basically made back its money. It got a foreign rights deal, so that was part of it. But then it also helped me land 2 different jobs.
Okay.
One was they were both director of marketing type jobs at 2 different companies. So I think that paid off. So that's kind of how I got started. I don't know if that makes it a hobby or...
What was the title of that book?
It was called, so I don't think it's really in print anywhere anymore. It's called Social Pollination.
Okay.
But yeah.
What first turned you on to the idea of having a book as credentials, sort of as a way to get yourself or leverage yourself into a position where you could land the job?
I think I read about it somewhere. I don't know if it was Joanna Penn's site, but I know that the creativepenn.com was there in 2009 when I was thinking about doing all this. And then I think it was just this idea that had kind of been that it kind of like bubbled up in the blogging community at the time. So a lot of bloggers were starting to get book deals, but then there was also like kind of the self-publishing bubble that was coming around, and it wasn't good for fiction yet. It was only on the nonfiction side, and the idea for me was like, by the time that somebody gets a book about social media marketing out, it'll be like 2 years from now. So it's all going to be outdated. So So then I was like, I'm just going to write it. I'll self-publish it. I'll keep it updated, and then I'll use it to land a job.
So do you think that having a self-published book makes you a more flexible creator in that way, where you can go in and make edits and updates on a much quicker schedule? Do you think that's helpful for your position kind of as an authority on topics?
Yeah, I think it can be. I also think that traditionally publishing is another good way to add credibility. So I think it's a toss-up. You have pros and cons to each. I think it really depends on like what the topic is and what you're using that book for. So for example, if you're using that book to build your business, which a lot of people are, like, let's say you want to build your coaching practice. If you self-publish that book, you're going to be able to do a lot more sales stuff in there. Right. If you don't self-publish it and you get a traditional publishing deal, well, their goal is not to like sell your coaching packages or whatever. Their goal is to sell more books. So they might not be like, you just want to make sure that your goals are aligned. Yeah,
have different priorities lined up and making sure everyone's happy with the situation. So you definitely came into this with a strategy. You started out writing with definite goals in mind. I mean, I get the impression from our conversations and just from what you've said before that you're definitely a planner, and that this is strategy is a big part of your business. What are some of the ways that you have, kind of taken that? Okay, so now you've got some authority as a writer. What was your what was your plan for continual growth?
So I guess on the fiction side, I feel like my plan is still in progress. Yeah. I wouldn't say so. On the fiction side, my first book was 2011. It did okay. Like, again, and the reason I'm sharing this money stuff is not like, oh, I made this much. It's more like just to give you guys an idea of what happened with it. So that book, it probably made about $6,000 its first year, but this was when Kindle Direct Publishing had just opened. So you could pretty much just upload the book and like, it would do decently, as long as it was like sort of written well. So the book did pretty well, and it did well in reviews, and I decided to turn it into more of a series, and so that series is actually what I'm working on now on the fiction side, even though it's like 8 years later, and I'm just trying to like kind of hack my way through that. On the nonfiction side, so I think on the fiction side I've not been very strategic. Though something I did that was strategic on the fiction side is in 2014, I was at the point where I was like, this one series is kind of my baby, so like I'm not willing to like rush that, but billionaire romances are hot, so like I'll go try to write one of those under a pen name. So I did. I wrote like this billionaire romance serial, and that did really well. So in 2014, I hit like the $1,000 a month mark on across. I think like I don't know if it's on Amazon or across retailers, but like I was wide, and those books like did decently and helped me kind of get my head in the game around fiction. But I can't say that my strategy is really strong there. On the nonfiction side, my strategy is a lot stronger, and I think it just that I got into a lot of the series that I have, which is the Growth Hacking for Storytellers series. I got into that kind of by accident. What happened was with that first book, it started as a blog post about writing better, faster. Essentially, I thought it would be like maybe 10,000 words. I'd publish it on Medium. It would get like a lot of attention. It ended up being 40,000 words. So I was like, okay, I'm just like, this is too long for a blog post. So, you know, Sean, Johnny, and Dave, who do the self-publishing podcast, they just encouraged me to turn it into a book. So I did. So then from that book, I looked at, questions. Like I kept getting the same questions over and over. Cause like when I had written that, I thought like, this is everything that can be said on this topic. Like that's really what I thought. I was like, I had given everything that I knew of this. And then I kept getting the same questions over and over. So I wrote 2 separate books. One was called The 8-Minute Writing Habit and the other was called Dictate Your Book. And those 2 books, both of those books individually did better than the original.
Interesting.
And I realized it was because, they were based off of questions that people had, not based off of like just what I thought. So I definitely started writing my nonfiction that way, where I was looking at like, what do people keep asking me about? And then I would write something about it.
How did you originally establish yourself sort of as an authority, as a blogger, when you first started? Where did that come from?
Oh man. So that was like 2007. I graduated college in 2006, and in 2007 started blogging, and my first blog was called 20 Set. And it was about, it was like personal development for 20 somethings was the tagline. Okay. And the way I got subscribers for that, there was this big blog at the time called Pro Blogger. Okay. Which is still, as far as I know, like quite a big blog. It's by Darren Rouse. And he was going on vacation. He asked for guest posts. So I wrote like this really long guest post, like over, you know, like it took me like over 8 hours to write, and it was chosen as one of the guest posts on his site. And like everybody who was a blogger read that one. So my subscriber, so before that used to be that you had like these RSS feeds. So my subscriber count went from like 20 to like 600, 700 overnight. And that helped me out a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think it's just about looking for opportunities to get in front of someone else's audience. And that still works today, even though tactically it might be different, but, as far as marketing goes, that's exactly what you do. You find someone else who has an audience and you try to get in front of them. That's like related to your stuff, obviously.
And what are some tips you have for authors who are looking to network and branch out and kind of make contact with larger audiences? How do you go about approaching that?
How do you make contact with larger audiences?
Yeah, it's a big topic, obviously, but how did you choose sort of the audiences that you thought would be a good fit for your market, and then reach out to those audiences?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best way right now is to just look on Amazon and see like who's in your also bots, or really like if you're doing this, who you want to have in your also bots. Okay, yeah. Who would be the ideal, and not like who you currently have. That's maybe not going to work for you. Yeah. But then I think the big thing is like a lot of people are like, okay, you want to like, now you have to like go to this conference and meet that person and like blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And like, yes, that's a great way to do it. Like, obviously we're talking right now because we just met at a conference this like a couple weeks ago. But, I like also if you just write a really good pitch, I think that works really well too. Like I know like when I was blogging, I wrote this email pitch to, Guy Kawasaki. Yeah. Who wrote for the Amex Open Forum, which was like this huge thing then. And I was like, hey, I have this blog post, and if you ever need like a guest to like sub in for your weekly column, like here's a blog post, it's ready to go, it's about the topic you like. Or I don't know if I sent him the blog post right away, but I was like, I'm happy to send you a blog post, and you can just read it. And he was like, okay, great, like. And he posted my blog post, because it's like, he didn't want to write, I don't know. Content, like, he probably didn't want to write his thing for the week or whatever. So he posted my blog post. So I think there's something to be said with just having something awesome and like knowing how that benefits someone else. So, even like if you're a fiction author, for example, it's like, you see someone else's newsletter, like write your little pitch and like, get it like all HTML'd out and like, like give them the HTML to like drop into their newsletter, and write it in their tone or whatever, and just be like, hey, if you ever need something to send your list, like, here you go.
Yeah.
And like,
make it easy.
I mean, yeah. And like some people won't do it, but like some people will, like you've done their work for them. And if you make that effort, I think, people will definitely be willing to work with you more.
Yeah, I think as content creators, I mean, people are always searching for content that really matches up. So I think it's great if you can find those great fits. So you started out, I know I've listened to some of your podcasts talking about how you shifted into dictation, and you've definitely taken some strategic steps to kind of streamline your own personal business habits. Is it just you, pretty much, your business pretty much just you, or do you have help at this point, or how are you working it?
Yeah, I've had, my team kind of fluctuates. I've had teams up to 8 people, freelancers though, so that are maybe working like, 10 to 15 hours a week. It just depends. Sorry. So the question is, what's the streamlining? Or,
I mean, I'm curious as to how you've figured out how to. I mean, I'll just phrase it this way: author businesses are hard. And especially starting out, when people are a single author entrepreneur and they're realizing that, okay, this is more than just a hobby. This is me having to market, having to be a publisher, having to do all these things. I'm curious as to how you grew the business, and also sort of when you knew that you needed help and said, okay, now I'm making enough money that I can take on help, or what did that look like?
I mean, I think like as far as when to hire your first person, I mean, it's going to depend on you. Like, how much money do you need for yourself? I mean, if you need like $10,000 for yourself, well, you're going to be doing a lot more than $10,000 of work per month to like maintain that. That's just a reality. If you need like $2,000 a month, then then you can make like the 4 or 5. I mean, and I don't say that, like, I think making $4,000 to $5,000 a month, if you're like writing to market and like doing the ads and everything, like, I think that's fairly doable to do on your own. And then if you're trying to get beyond that, it's definitely still doable, but a lot of the people I see doing it are like working a lot more than 40 hours a week or whatever. They're working pretty consistently, like 60 to 80 hours a week, and they've been doing it for a couple of years. So that's kind of what I'm seeing on the fiction side. Nonfiction is a totally different story. I would say, like, the less you need, the better. And then you can take that money and invest it. And for me, I think most of the people that I work with, they're between like 20 and 30. I think I've gone all the way up to like 35 an hour. But if you're only doing like 5 to 10 hours a week, then it's not really like a huge amount. It's not like you need like $5,000 to be able to hire your first person. It's like, you need a couple, like $1,500, and you could hire somebody and get good value out of them. As far as working with people, like, you really, really need to, like, never, at least for me, this has not ever worked for me, to like be like, oh, I don't like to do this, so let me hire someone to do that for me. Like, that has never once worked for me. Maybe it works for other people. What works for me is like, okay, I know exactly how to do this, and I figured out my process for doing this. Now I'm going to write out those instructions, and then I'm going to hire someone to do that, just like to do it over and over again. Like, that has worked really well for me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people labor under the misconception that they can just sort of pawn off the jobs that they're not good at and don't want to do, and that somehow someone will magically care more about their business than they will, and figure out these things. And yeah, that's a great way to put it. That you basically have to give away the things that you're already good at, and because those are the things you can teach someone to do well, which I think is a valuable lesson. for sure. So obviously, you do have to pick and choose the parts of your business that are going to be entirely up to you. So what are some of the things, obviously there's the creative content, there's the creative side of creation, but what are some of the other things that you would be uncomfortable handing off, that you just feel you want to have the reins on?
I think the biggest thing is probably the strategy for me. As far as, yes, there's lots of creative work. I mean, what I would say is, the people you want to hire, they need to be somewhat creative. Like, even if like let's say you're like, okay, I want to get like ads done. Like I want help with my Amazon ads. It's like that person needs to know how to write copy or whatever. Or if you're like, I want to have a sales page, you've got to like I'll often do the outlining for the sales page because I kind of know like the bullet points that need to be hit. But then I need that person to be able to write the copy for that. So yeah, I think that I think as far as creative work goes, you want someone who's creative because you have a creative business, and most of the stuff that you're doing in it involves a level of creativity. The control piece that I have is really like what content goes there. Like, I've never hired someone and like I'm like, okay, go write a sales page for this, and like they write this awesome sales page. Like that has never worked for me. What it is like, I'm like, okay, I know how to write a sales page because I've done it a bunch and like learned how to do it over the years, and I have like these copywriting skills. So I'll write like a really detailed outline, and then I'll hand it off to somebody, and they can write a pretty good sales page, and then I'll go through and like just re-edit it for like whatever I miss, they miss, like just to get it like, exactly where I need it. And it's the same with like blog posts or like anything else on the nonfiction side, for me anyway. Other things I do, so like for a lot of my stuff, I do outlines, and then I'll have like people helping with the process. So for like a video, I would do an outline, and then they would, like someone else would create the slides, and then I would record the video, and then someone else might do like some light editing and like all the admin on like posting the video, like posting to the group or whatever about the video, like whatever little admin stuff there is. So that person, they kind of need to like be into the creative stuff still.
Do you typically search among the author community for that sort of thing, or do you find people just freelancers on like freelancer.com and things like that?
Yeah, I think it's been mixed. So what I did in the past was that I was basically like I'd have people who were like, oh, I'm a huge fan, like, can I work with you? And I'm like, okay, sure. Like, and so then I'd let them come, I'd have them come in, and then we'd figure out like what are they good at, and then I'd assign them stuff like that. So that was okay for a bit. The more successful thing for me was to write out a job description. And like the job descriptions that I write are like, it's basically like asking for the world. Yeah. And like, you're starting at like $20 an hour or whatever. And those have worked a lot better for me is like the more detailed job descriptions, because people aren't going to apply unless like they have at least like 60 to 70% of it. So that's worked really well. And just, like it's helped me like also focus on like what do I actually need? Like, okay, I need somebody who's going to be good at like slide decks, videos, that sort of thing. And then the other thing is, since they're freelancers, like you're not going to buy the software for them in most cases, or like it's not an employee, you're not providing them with a laptop. So you need to put in there like, okay, this involves Keynote, or this involves Zoom, or, like whatever software you're using, so that you don't have to buy any of that extra stuff for them. Yeah. So that was really important working with freelancers. As far as that, so the job description, I think I posted it on Facebook, and maybe like a couple friends had shared it. Like I didn't ask them to, but they shared it, and I think it comes down to like create a job description that somebody wants to do. And so then people are like, okay, yeah, like I want to share this because like this is like a really good opportunity for somebody.
Yeah, they want to be helpful to their friends or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so that's worked well for me.
What about, so a lot of people are just, starting out in the author business. I mean, there's new people joining all the time, and they might see someone like you who's, very successful and think, oh man, I don't know how to get from here to there. What are some of the basic business blocks that you think people really need to have right in the beginning to build that foundation for an author business? What are some of the things that are the key bricks for them to be building?
I think you should know what you want your business to look like in the next year or so, let's say. So if you're a nonfiction author, it's really like your product funnel. Like a lot of people, they start a blog or they start a podcast and they're like, I'm just going to put out content. And that's fine if that's what you're going to monetize. But for me, I don't put out a piece of content anymore unless it's tied to a book, a course, or something else. It's all funneling into... It's if I'm going to make a piece of free content, then there's going to be something to sign up for, like an email list, something to sign up for. And that email list is going to be it's going to have an email sequence that tells them about a product that I'm selling or a book that's on sale or whatever. And that, so I, the way I build mine now is I start with what am I selling? And then I kind of work my way out. So I'll start with okay, what am I selling? Well, here's a sales page. And then here's the email sequence that leads to the sales page. And then here's the freebie that leads to the email list. And then here's the free content that leads to that freebie. And I kind of work my way out like that. For fiction, go ahead.
I was going to say, have there been any tools that you've used to help map your business? I joke around with friends. I have color-coded maps of all the things that I've designed of how everything connects. That's
crazy.
How do you go about keeping track of all of this? And
yeah. I mean, I think so. So about the product funnel that I don't know if you want me to get into that. So that's something that we talked about at the conference that Nathan and I were just at. I think there's that to look at what are the different categories, or what are the different price points of my business and what fits into each and how do they connect, and just look at one row of that, because I think we have we all have 50 rows of that we want to implement, but look at one and see how can I just build this first. And then work from there. And I think it's the same with fiction. Really, it's what is your, and Chris Fox talked about this recently, what is your flagship series? It's pick one thing to build, and try not to move on until you've gotten some foundational stuff in place, and also until you're starting to see the money come in from that. And then once you're starting to see that money, build some extra stuff around it, build extra freebies going into it, or extra traffic sources, or whatever it might be, so that, because if you lose a traffic source on your, you build this amazing sales funnel for something that you have, and it's working great, and then for whatever reason you lose that traffic source, your income just went from whatever it was to zero, almost overnight. And you see that all the time. In this, people are I quit my, this story used to be really common. I don't think it's common anymore, but it's I was making $7,000 on Amazon. And this was back in 2013 when it was easier to do that with a crappy book series or whatever. Yeah. So you'd see all these people who are I'm making $5,000, I'm making $7,000. And so then they quit their job. And 6 months later, they were oh, it's dried up. Yeah. And it's well, yes, you were making that much, but this isn't a linear business. It's not you make that much and then you, the only thing that can happen is you're going to make more. Right. That's not true. It's you make that much and you not only have to protect that income, by always innovating on that same sales funnel, but then you also need to build other avenues, because trends and industry changes and all this stuff, that can drop your income. Yeah. So it's you have to really add those business principles in.
Yeah. What are some things that you do personally? I know you're not one of the people you've talked about how you don't write every day. You focus on different things at different times. You kind of write in bursts and things like that when the need calls for it. What are some things that you've used to sort of productivity hack your own day? Like, how do you decide what to work on a given day, et cetera?
Yeah, I think I'm similar to a lot of people in that if I'm typically working on like one thing at a time. I can't say I am right now. Like right now I'm in more of I'm just in a period of like, trying to figure out like kind of what I want to do. And like, so I feel like my ideas are like changing every day. But typically, yeah, I would have like my book on pre-order or something, and that's like what I'm working on. And so I typically use deadlines to just kind of make sure that I stay there. Other than that, I mean, like everybody, I make a to-do list. I think a lot of people, they use the calendar blocking, which I think is great. And for some reason, it like makes me panic to have that much stuff on my schedule. So like, I'm more like, okay, here's what I'm doing today. It's typically only one thing because I'm like, I'm not going to try to do 3 things in one day. So I'm like, okay, I'm writing like this chapter or whatever, or I'm working on this book, and then it's like I'm just going to be, pressing through it as much as I need to.
What's exciting you right now? What are you working on right now as far as upcoming books?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So for The World Needs Your Book, so what I'm doing is I'm taking all the books that are current, the whole Growth Hacking for Storyteller series, and essentially reimagining it and like consolidating some pieces of it. So what I want to do is I want to eventually pull all those books and like have them rewritten for a broader audience. So right now they're all written to like kind of the fiction author niche. It's really like independent fiction authors who want to make this like a full-time career. So that's like, it's actually a pretty small niche. Maybe like 100,000 people total, and like 20,000 who are dedicated. So I want to expand that to other audiences, nonfiction, fiction, traditional, self-published, like all over the place. And then other than that, I'm working on a tarot website. So that's kind of a new project, and it's more in the hobby phase right now. Like I don't have like big plans. I don't have big movement on the plans for that yet.
Okay, interesting. Oh, while I have you, I was going to ask you. I just actually downloaded your book, Dictate Your Book, recently, and checking it out. Has anything changed since the time you published that book about the way that about the software you're using, or how you're using dictation?
Honestly, not really. I'm sure. Like, okay, so like this microphone, I think. That. So this microphone is Audio Technica 2020. Like it's like the $60 or $70 thing. I got it in 2012, and I haven't changed. Like it still works like great for interviews, for dictation, for whatever. So that part of my setup's pretty much the same. As far as, so I used to I used to take this mic outside with me and record that way into like my iPad or my phone. I don't really do that anymore now. Just with like the technology of phones now, I have an app called Dragon Anywhere, which is really like, it's really great. I think it works just well enough for me anyway, so I can dictate on the road. So that whole setup piece is like, I don't do that anymore. Other than that, I think, so I used to have I had Dragon Dictate 3 for the longest time, and I was like, that's so ridiculous to have that. So I think like a year or two ago, I upgraded to, I think Dragon Dictate 6. I don't know if they're on 7 now, but I'm on 6, and it's great. Like, it's like way better. Like, I feel like I learned how to dictate in the Stone Age when it was just so freaking hard to do. So, like, now it's like the way technology is, I'm just like, this is amazing. Like, this is so accurate compared to what I was working with before. So, I don't know.
That's really cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come and chat with us a little bit about your business, about your books. Where's the best place for people to find information about you and your books?
I'm at theworldneedsyourbook.com.
theworldneedsyourbook.com. Okay, great, fantastic. Monica, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day, I know you're always busy, to come and chat with me, and I really appreciate it. And
thanks for having me.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And sorry I'm late.
No worries. And I didn't see a lot of questions. I'm not sure if there were anything was popping up, but if anyone is watching the replay and you have questions for Monica or myself, we'll try to answer them in the comments. So thanks everyone for watching.
Bye.
Bye.